What's up, house groups? Right now we're in the middle of a series called 4, where we've been looking at Jesus' first sermon in Luke 4, where he talks about what he came to earth for. And on Sunday we talked about how the mission he was on, which he handed off to the church, to us, was to bring good news, healing, hope, and freedom to the spiritually lost and broken. Which means there's no getting around this. Part of what it means to be a disciple of Jesus is to actively seek out those who are far from God and invite them in by sharing our story with them and sharing God's story, like the good news of the gospel, with them. Because there's something transformational about people hearing how God is working in our lives. And there's something transformational about the gospel. It has real power. I think it's really easy, though, especially if you're like me and you spend a lot of your life in or around the church, to forget that God found you and reached you through his people. And then end up in a really comfortable spot in your faith where you're kind of doing the Christian thing, checking off the right boxes, being fed, being poured into, but not really living on mission with God or allowing him to reach other people in the world through you. And part of the problem is that I think we've professionalized ministry and sharing our faith in the Western world. So sometimes we get really caught up believing that in order to make any sort of difference for God, you got to do what I do and get into vocational ministry. But nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, I think in a lot of ways, all of you are far better positioned to make a difference for God's kingdom than I am. Because you crash into people every day out in the world, in your workplaces, in your neighborhoods, in your schools that I'll never meet. You guys have the opportunity to have conversations with people I don't. And frankly, some of those people would be really nervous to talk to me because I'm a pastor. And if you don't believe me, ask any pastor. People get weird when you say you're a pastor, but those same people might open up to you and listen to what you have to say. And so I think if you're willing to share your story with them, to let them know what God has done in your life and who God is to you and what Jesus means to you, you can make an impact in ways I never could. And that's been true forever. In the earliest days of the church, in the book of Acts, we read about 40 different miracles that happened. 39 of them happened in the workplace. 1 happened in the church. That disparity is beyond explaining as some sort of anomaly. What it means is that those of you who are called to a vocation other than full-time ministry are in an incredible place with an incredible opportunity to see the outworking of the Spirit of God. The only question is whether you and I and all of us will seize that opportunity and share Jesus with the people we crash into. Because make no mistake, that is God's calling on our lives. It's the purpose and the mission he's got for you. He found you. Now he wants to find other lost people through you, because found people find people. And found people find people not because they have to. Oh God, why? What a heavy burden you've placed on me that I'm supposed to tell other people about Jesus. Found people find people because they get to. Because they know Jesus changes everything. You guys, we speak boldly about what we believe deeply. We speak boldly about what we believe deeply. And I mean, think about it. If you eat at a restaurant that's awful, you tell everybody, don't go there, it's trash. If you eat at a great place, you tell people, you gotta check this place out. If you watch a great new show, you tell people. If your football team wins, you tell people. But let's have a gut level honest moment tonight. Most of us, even at Revision, are more comfortable talking about sports and food and movies and even politics with the people around us than we are talking about Jesus. I don't think that's because we're not convinced those people need Jesus. I don't even think it's because we don't think Jesus is good, or we don't think the gospel is life-saving and life-changing and beautiful. I think most of us believe they desperately need Jesus, and most of us are captivated by the beauty of the gospel. I think we hesitate to talk about it because we just don't want it to cost us anything. We find ourselves shutting down the tug of the Holy Spirit in our hearts, going, yeah, but I'm really comfortable just the way that I am, and I like comfort. I'm an American, and so I can't invite them to church. They might say no, and then I'd feel weird. They might say no is our excuse. And yet, Christians all over the world who aren't used to the affluence or comfort of America are going, yeah, I can't read. Yeah, I can't write. Yeah, I might get beaten. Yeah, I might get arrested. Yeah, I got to walk miles and miles, hours and hours to reach people. Yeah, it might cost me everything, including my life. But I have to speak boldly about what I believe deeply. How could I not share the good news of Jesus. And you guys, it's changing the world as they do that. And it could change the world if we'll do it too. I just think if we could zoom out from our comfortable little lives and realize how crazy it is that God stepped out of eternity into the human story to save us, we would find ourselves compelled to go do the same thing. Like, we have a chance every day to share our stories and help people meet Jesus. That's the white hot why of the church, and it's the only thing that matters for eternity. And so this week, my challenge is like, what if we all just committed to inviting one person in? To telling one person how much Jesus means to us and inviting them to come to church. And then just seeing what God does with that. I have a conviction deep in my soul that every person on this planet is desperate for Jesus, whether they know it or not. There's this profoundly human sense of alienation somewhere in here. There's this voice that tells us we're alone and we're just floating in the space of this world. And sometimes I think in the church, we meet a God who fills that hole for us, and then we forget what it was like to be empty. And so we convince ourselves of this narrative that all the people out there, all the folks in our city who are chasing the world and avoiding the church are doing it because they're totally fulfilled. Deep down, they're happy, and they're not alienated, and they're not desperate for God, and they'd find a church if they were, and so they'd just say no if we invite them in, but that's not true. So many of them don't even know where to go as they drift through all the spaces of this world, desperate for something they haven't found yet. So let's be a church, let's be individuals, let's be a community that goes and shares and invites them in and sees what God does with that. Because that's the mission Jesus says we're here for. We're found people, so we gotta go find people.